Yes.
Hey, what's up?
Yes. Yes. Not much. Not much. Thank you for joining us. We are back with another Black Inspirational Spotlight with attorney, TV personality, best-selling author. The list goes on and on and on and on. Miss Eboni K. Williams. And I was gonna ask, how are you doing? But I know for Black people right now, that is one of the, if not the most complicated questions we could be asked right now. But I do want to check in and let you know that, we're here. If you need to, express anything and let us know how you're doing.
I appreciate that, bro. I do. And I'm going to return the question, but I am going to answer it because you're right. I think in this moment, in the past several days, people don't even know how to ask or answer that question, right? So
Yep.
I have this saying, the older I get, bro, I tell you, the more I try to really work on myself. So one of my things for this year, for 2020, is use my words, right?
Yep.
I want to use my words. So when people ask me how am I feeling, I'm really going to articulate it. I'll tell you exactly how I feel right now, bro. I feel angry.
Yep.
I feel heartbroken. I feel overwhelmed. I feel discouraged. I feel exhausted. But I also feel entirely committed to the work of liberating our people. Entirely committed. So it's not a singular feeling, and I think everybody needs to give themselves permission to exist in a wide scope of emotion right now and feeling, and allow yourself to sit in your feelings, right? I was talking to a dear friend of mine this morning, and she just was like, I had to just like take a day yesterday. And I did the bare minimum, right? Like she's like, most people was just getting voicemail. I did the very, very minimum because I just had to sit in the shit.
Yeah.
So that I could give myself what I need. So I think that's really a good place to start this conversation. And with that, I need to know how you, my dear brother, as a Black man in this country, how do you feel?
A lot of, mostly everything that you said. Lately within the past few days, few weeks, I think what comes to the forefront is scared.
Mm.
After having to be so courageous our whole lives, and then getting to this point that's just so unfamiliar.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's familiar, but at where we are right now, it's just so much more intense.
Yeah.
And these feelings are so much more intense, and they're so hard to pinpoint. And that makes it all the while scarier, is because of the confusion.
Mm-hmm.
And not the not knowing what to do, and the pressure that's growing to, do we need to do something, or what do I need to do? And there's all these, different things that are just that feel like they're collapsing, and that you need to carry and take on yourself. So, I'm climbing out. I'm trying
Yeah.
to,
Yeah.
I'm doing better, but we're here for you, and we need to hear a lot more from you. So let's start with this whole quarantine situation, and try to make it a little lighter. And we've been asking this question to most of our guests. What have you been, if anything, what have you been binge watching? And
Oh,
what kind of snacks you've been eating? What you've been. We gotta know.
yeah. So I've been binge watching. Well, I will start by saying, how like really smart people like to pretend like they're too good for TV. I never have, never will be too good for TV.
That's
I
right.
live for TV. I'm an only child. TV was my friend. TV was my buddy. And it's probably honestly why I pursued a career in television, right? So I love it. And quarantine. Oh, I just finished rewatching the entire series of The Wire. I'm one of those folks. Yeah, I believe everything you really, really need to know about life is in The Wire. Um,
Thanks.
so that's great because I hadn't seen the series since 2008. So I was like kind of in my mid 20s. And so when I watch it as like I've been practicing law, I started practicing law, I should say 13 years ago. I am almost 37 years old now. I am much deeper in my involvement with politics. Like my whole psyche, I'm deeply entrenched in the media. And if you're a fan of The Wire, you know those are all the touch points, right? It's
Yep.
politics, it's policing, it's government, it's education system, it's the media. So it's dope. So I just finished that. What else? Also watching a lot of trash, a lot of good trash
A lot of
TV.
good trash.
I'm a Bravo fan. So I'm into Married to Medicine LA, which is the new franchise. Loving it, loving the representation of gorgeous Black women who happen to be physicians or other professionals. It's dope.
Yes.
Yeah, 90 Day Fiance, that's my
Yep.
bag. Yeah. All about it. All
I'm
about
guilty.
it. Baby girl Lisa and the crew and everything there is good. But then I've also been, to go back to the authenticity of the moment, William, I have been leaning into documentaries the last couple of days. So I just rewatched I Am Not Your Negro, which is a beautifully done doc that depicts an aspect of James Baldwin that we didn't really get to see play out because he died before he finished it. But before he died, he was working on creating a piece that aligned the lives and the tragic deaths of Malcolm, Martin, and Medgar Evers. So it's just fantastic, and I really encourage everybody to do it. So I am watching that right now. So yeah, a mix of educational stuff to just kind of keep me focused, keep my spirit enriched, but also like no shame in my game, bro. I have to check out on some level.
You have.
And that's where the Bravo and the 90 Day Fiance and the TLC
Oh yeah.
are extremely helpful. And Insecure. Insecure this week was a beautiful
Oh,
episode,
beautiful episode.
right? And like
Yep.
I think as we kind of collectively as Black folk sit in all the things we talked about at the top of the interview, right? All the angst, all the anxiety, all the trauma. How wonderful was it for us Sunday night to get 30 minutes of Black love, like a true Black love story, and shot beautifully. The cinematography was just visually beautiful. And we see Issa's character step into her sexuality, step into her womanhood. Like somebody was saying on IG, it's so cool how they showed the walk after her sexual experience, because it was not a walk of shame, right? It was this walk of pride to say,
Yes.
I went for what I wanted in that moment, and damn, it feels good. Like, yeah, it was dope.
100%. 100%.
Yeah.
And what's next? What would you eat? I need to, widen up my.
What's next? I played. I've also gotten back into my gangster film bag. So I rewatched Godfather 1 and 2. So next up, I'm probably gonna go back to all the Scorsese stuff. So rewatch Goodfellas. I'm gonna probably rewatch Casino. Rewatch. Yeah, I'm gonna do a gangster lean. So yeah.
Let's do it. Let's do it. All right, so people can get a little idea of your background. You're from North Carolina. Went to University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, where you got your BA in African American Studies. And then at 16, though, you went there at 16.
I was a nerd. You ain't got to tell people that. You ain't got to tell the people that. But yeah, I was extremely dorky and very nerdy. Braces, like it was a mess. But whatever, I survived it. The glow up is real.
We'd love to hear more about that. But then you went on to earn your Juris Doctor from Loyola University, New Orleans College of Law.
Yeah.
What was the driving force that made you decide to become a lawyer?
So I actually realized I wanted to be an attorney like 6, 7 years old. And really, I guess I should say I knew I wanted to be a lawyer. Now, what's funny is I obviously 6 or 7, I don't know what that is, right? I never met an attorney in real life. I just knew that when I watched TV, here we go, going back to TV and why representation is so important.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
I just knew the lawyers I saw on LA Law, Law and Order, Oz. I was watching as a kid. Had no business watching. I knew that they showed up in spaces and they were given immediate respect. They were given immediate credibility. They were given power. Yeah. And even as a 5 or 6 year old little Black girl born in Southeast Louisiana to a mother who was a single Black woman with no formal higher level education, had her own experience in the criminal justice system and grew up in the segregated South. Yep. I knew that for it to be different for me, I needed to pursue a professional pathway that could immediately give me access to the things, give me access to the credibility, give me access to the power, give me access to the freedom. Yeah. That I knew, generally speaking, was denied to our people. I knew as a little Black girl and who would grow up to be a Black woman, I knew just by default as to the way social constructs and racial constructs and social order in our country were. And I knew this young, like sadly young, like kindergarten young. Like when you don't get invited to the birthday parties and shit, you know, it hit different when you're in kindergarten. And you, seriously though, you start recognizing like it's a dynamic at play. So I decided the best way for me to combat that dynamic is to do the work and show up in a capacity that I couldn't be denied. I couldn't be denied. So whatever presumptions you're going to make about me because I'm a Black woman, you already have to second guess the minute I show up in that space as a Black woman attorney. So that's where it came from. That's where it came from.
Yes, yes. That's beyond admirable, brave, all that's amazing. And
I've been thinking, bro. I've been thinking.
You've been thinking. I love that so much.
Yeah.
You are the epitome of a go-getter. You embody that. And like I said, best-selling author, attorney, TV personality, especially on so many different types of outlets too. The diverse types of outlets. It's incredible. And please let me know if I'm missing anything.
Sure.
Where does the passion come from to conquer all of those different avenues, all of those different careers?
That's an important question. I actually surprisingly don't get that question as often as I would like. So that passion came from two things. On a personal level, I just enjoy showing people I can succeed in spaces that they presume I cannot, right? So like you said, so my television career started at the NFL network, but I was in a legal capacity. I was a legal analyst. So I was covering Aaron Hernandez when that first broke, and you know, as players in the league or leagues or teams themselves find themselves in legal woes, they would call me on and I would do my thing. Then I go into the politics bag, and I spent many years, I think five years total, in cable news. So I was at CNN, HLN, Fox News, and a variety of different shows, a variety of different roles, from political analyst, legal analyst, to eventually hosting my own show on the network. But it was politics and legal. So boom, we want to put her in this box that says she's our little legal, and she's a politics guru, and that's what Eboni does. Yeah. And so then I'm like, but like quiet as kept, as you said in my beautiful intro you gave me, I'm a proud Tar Heel, baby. Never forget it. born it, gonna die it. And so I've always been a fanatic when it comes to sports. And my mom, being a single mom, her thing was mediocrity is some bullshit, and excellence is what matters. And one of the few places where pure excellence beyond all the other variables matters still is in sports. Because when you the best, and they can't take that from you. So I grew up, we were going to Panthers games, Charlotte Hornets games when I was a young girl. So I've always had this passion and information around sports. So when I was transitioning from Fox News Channel, the network, and clearly that relationship had run its course, I just like asked the question, yo, I'm like pretty dope when it comes to sports. Can I start hosting and guest hosting on some of these sports programs? And you know, that was like, what? But I showed up and showed out, you know. So I had a great time hosting with Skip and Shannon on Undisputed. I hosted First Things First for quite a while with Chris Carter and Nick Wright in the guest host role when their main moderator was unable to make it. So that was dope. And then from there, then I'm going to go in a completely opposite direction, and I'm going to go host a hip hop talk show, because that makes sense, right? But it was dope because I went to Revolt, and I just say I recognize the critical importance of their audience. Yes. And for somebody who has spent most of my career in front of majority white audiences, to put it candidly, it was important for me to take my talents to a new space, to go talk directly to my people with specific knowledge. So that was what was important about it for me. Is like, I'm not just going to go and be another voice in the chorus, because frankly, and that's a good thing, we already have quite a few personalities and talents that are doing a lot of good work in the Black community and representing the Black community on a wide variety of platforms. So yes. My challenge to myself is always this: what can I add to the dialogue that is currently missing? And how do I move the conversation forward? And how do I add specificity to the conversation that is already occurring? So when I got the offer to join Joe Budden, Remy Ma, and Jinx on State of the Culture, that was my mandate I made to myself. Is these people are already killing it. They're already got a following. They're already doing their thing. And I'm not going to out hip hop nobody on that show. So therefore, what I have to go do is show up authentically in what I know best and what I do best. And now I think the show is just like, it's one of my favorite things about my current life. Is the opportunity to learn from these people, to learn their experiences, to share mine. They've made space for that. And so when I look at my career now in broadcasting, which is about 8 years total, to be able to say that I've really been able to show up authentically and valuable, you know, be a real value add to spaces that are sports, politics, law and social justice, hard news, and now, you know, hip hop and culture. And that makes me happy, and I'm not done. It's some more stuff on the to-do list.
That's amazing. And that's an incredible, perfect segue to my next question. I want to talk to you a little bit about State of the Culture with Joe Budden, Remy Ma, and Jinx.
Yeah.
Tell us a little. I know you told us a little bit about it, but tell us more about that and what you love most about being on that show. Well,
what I love most about that show is, again, how different we all are from each other. I think There's a lot of programming that tries to cast, if you will, people that are similar in the thinking that that's going to be the sauce, you know, that's the magic. Personally, oh yeah, I'm seeing somebody's peeping my mug here. Yeah, this is a replica of the United States Constitution from the National Museum of African American History and Culture, and I'm big on this. You got to really know I'm an AKA, right? Ski-wee, hey Soars in the comments. Love y'all, see y'all, miss y'all. And one of the things we say as Soars is know your documents. Know your documents, because you cannot actively participate in the work of the sorority if you don't know your documents. As Black people in this country, guess what? We need to know our documents.
Yep.
And
write that down.
Right? You guys, yeah, you guys can see it in my office space here. I've got let me see if I can put this up. A couple things on my wall. One thing you're going to see right there behind the chandelier. That is a replica I had commissioned. That is the Middle Passage. That's a slave ship, bro.
Yeah.
That's a slave ship, and that's thousands, probably tens of thousands of Black bodies like yours and like mine that were transported into this country. And beneath it, you see a document that talks about just exactly how that transition went down, and transaction rather. And that's exactly what that was. So I know my documents. I also have the 14th Amendment framed and on my wall, because that's the clause that allows for everything to that's the equality. That's the equality clause that says every single amendment or phrase in the Constitution has to apply to us all equitably. So
Right.
anyways, I'm going off into a tangent. But the
No,
point
that's
is,
real.
know your
That's
documents.
real. People need to know that. We need to
People
know
need to know your documents.
Know your documents.
Yeah, okay, so back to your question. What I love about the show, I love that we come together from extremely different walks of life. But, you know, Remy's, obviously, everybody knows Remy's story. It's very unique and remarkable. We all know the story and the journey of Joe Budden. Jinx has an incredible story too. This, you know, extremely intelligent brother, Morehouse graduate, you know, had an idea that he was going to graduate and kind of pursue finance or a traditional business route. And then he ended up being like, you know what, my heart is in telling the stories of our culture and our people. And he's a music fan. Like, don't forget, fan is short for fanatic. Man, I don't think I've ever met anybody more fanatically supportive and just awestruck of music and musicians and the culture than Brandon Jinx. And so that's his thing. And then there's me, you know, Southern pageant, washed up beauty queen, former, you know, news network personality, sitting up here coming into this amazing space that really is a bedrock of hip hop and Black culture. So you take all that, you put it together. Like I said, I'm born in Louisiana, and you got a really cool gumbo. That's what we create outside of the culture. It is a gumbo of flavor and variety and perspective and intellect and humor and personality. And sometimes we go up against each other because we see shit extremely differently. Case in point, Rem and I just saw Michael Jordan when the Last Dance doc came out. We had a preview on the show. Yeah. And I was like, you know, to me, there's no GOAT conversation. The conversation is the greatest person I've ever seen play basketball in my lifetime is Michael Jeffrey Jordan. That's it. In terms of on the court performance, totality. But beyond that, I have a serious problem, and still do, with what I feel is a reckless failure to use probably at one point in time, bro, the biggest platform in the world, not America, in the world, and to use it for something that advanced something other than your own self.
Right.
I had a problem with that. Now, Rem, is she a grown-ass woman entitled to her point of view, saw it differently. Her positioning was he worked for that. It's a reason he's the GOAT. That was his work and his energy, and he gets to decide what to do with that. And if his decision is to be self-interested and protect his brand at all costs, you know, that's the business, and people need to stop expecting different. So we just saw it different. And what was great about the show, and this is really the answer to my question, my favorite thing about the show is when we have those different perspectives and we're both extremely impassioned and strong about it, we can show up with that duality. So that way our viewers, right, they don't feel that there's a singular way of thinking or being, or that there's one right way. Nah. It's all of it, and we give each other permission to show up in that complexity.
Yes, that's amazing, and that's so important. All of those different perspectives and whatnot coming towards that common goal, and with so much passion too.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of another avenue and another perspective, let's go into your 2 books that you have out already. The most recent one being Pretty Powerful: Appearance, Substance, and Success. Now, without giving up too much, obviously, tell us a little bit about what the people might be getting from this, from reading it.
Sure. So Pretty Powerful is my love letter to Black women, really, because I wrote it. I think Toni Morrison says, your job is to write the book that's not written. You know, if there's something that you wish you could get your hands on and read to give you better positioning, and it doesn't exist, it's your job to write it. Mm-hmm. So that is the mandate that I picked up, and that's what I wrote Pretty Powerful for. So when I was growing up, I really felt a struggle, an internal conflict with being studious. I already told you I was a big dorky geek, academically inclined, and that's not, what do you call it, self-deprecating. That's just the truth. Being successful in the classroom, being a high achiever, and all of that. but then also knowing that what I look like mattered. You know, my mom had me in beauty pageants. I was a commercial actress, actually, as a kid. And I know you know all about that life, right? I had an agent. I had my first agent when I was 7 years old. You know, I was going on auditions and go-sees and callbacks and bookings and set. Like, yeah. And so to tell me it doesn't matter what you look like, I already knew that was some bullshit.
Yep.
You know, because clearly it does. Because what I'm seeing in real time, again, I told you I've been thinking that people are willing to pay a lot of money for a particular aesthetic. I knew that as a kid because I experienced it. So I couldn't reconcile these dualities that say on one hand, it doesn't matter what you look like as long as you just are a good person and smart and do the work. And on the other side, knowing it very much mattered what you look like. So I wrote Pretty Powerful to kill that narrative that it's one or the other. Yes. Because it's not. Because there is so much power in the duality of those ways of being. When you can lean into the substance, when you can lean into the achievement model and the model of excellence in all things, and you can captivate the power that we all intrinsically have by our aesthetic. The way we show up in a space. I always tell my mentees, the interview starts way before you open your mouth. The interview starts when you walk into the room and they're already assessing you, what you look like, what you got on. How, you know, do you look well kept? And I'm not talking about respectability politics here. Let me be clear. This is not about a blowout and trying to assimilate to a white aesthetic. Not at all. And I talk about that in the book. This is just about maximizing your personal, authentic truth in a way that is most, that you can be most confident in. Because that's the key, right? What's attractive? Confidence. Confidence. So that's what the book is about. You know, I love the book still. The book is kind of, it has a cult following, really. And I still get feedback to this day, every day, with somebody still picking it up for the first time, ordering it on Amazon for the first time, getting it on Audible, and the Audible is me reading. Yes, I spent 4 days in a booth reading that book word for word. So if you get the Audible, it is me that you will hear. And it's dope. Yeah.
That's so important. All of that is so important, so empowering too.
Yeah.
These are
because you know you know the truth of that. So I mean, I know it's your interview, but I'm gonna ask you this. Like I was checking you out and I'm like, well, this is an extremely attractive brother. But I wonder for men, as it often is the case for women, when people see just how attractive and good looking you are there presumptions about questions around your intellect, your substantive capabilities, even maybe your acting. You know, I lived in LA for about 5 or 6 years, and sometimes I would hear that from my actress and actor friends, that when they were so attractive, the presumption was like, oh, you can only do soaps, or you can only do this, or you can only do that, right? Because you can't look that good and be actually gifted in your art. So could you speak to your experience on that perception?
Yeah, a lot of times you're often thrown in one bucket in that sense. Like, you know, we won't even really take a look at you, you know, because of your look, because you can't get, how can we make you look like grimier? How can we make you look, you know, a little like dirtier? Because people won't believe that. And then, you know, also just assuming that, you know, that I do have this over the top confidence or like some sort of cockiness associated, or arrogance associated with my personality or the way I approach everything. And so, you know, sometimes it is off-putting and whatnot, but I think the key is to really get to know somebody. Like we you can't like judge, like just try our hardest to not judge. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But yeah, that's
it. So people in the comments are getting upset with us. They want us to open it up for their questions too, which I love. I don't know how you feel about that, but I love.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I just have a couple more questions, and then towards the end, let's open it up
Okay,
if you
dope.
free. Yeah,
Yep.
no, there's just a couple more things that I feel like are important right now, and that we really want to hear from you. Who are some of the people that inspire you right now, past, present, future?
This woman right here inspires me. Let me get up here real close so y'all can see. This is
Mm-hmm.
the great Harriet Tubman.
Yes.
The ultimate liberator of her people. And of course, that's going to inspire the shit out of me, because any woman who at that time in American history had the audacity to
Right.
say, I will live free or I will die.
Right.
I mean, shit. I don't know what else needs to be said.
Right.
So Harriet Tubman. Similarly, Shirley Chisholm. Shirley Chisholm, the first Black woman to serve in the United States Congress, right here from the great state of New York, born in, born here, but raised in the Caribbean. I want to say Trinidad. She was an educator professionally, and then again, she ran for Congress. And then she became the first woman of any race to run seriously and viably for a presidential nomination, when she ran in, I want to say 1972, for the Democratic nomination, and went to convention as well. So Shirley Chisholm's campaign slogan when she ran for president was unbought and unbossed. And that's something that I hold dear to, because all money ain't good money. My mom taught me that when I was younger. And, that's one reason why some of the jobs I've had, particularly in media, but actually true in law too. I forgot I walked away from big law. That was, yeah, it ain't nothing for me to quit a job. Let me just tell the people that. And that's not because I don't take finances seriously. It's not because I don't need money. Trust me, I do. I have bills just like everybody else. But my spirit is so important to be respected and preserved. So if I find myself at a law firm or in a corporation or doing a TV show or a radio show or anything where my spirit is compromised, and I don't think I can do the work in a way that serves me spiritually, and even, well, as important, my people, and by my people, I do mean Black people. And I also mean people that just want to live at a higher level, people that just want more. If those things can't align, I gotta go. I cannot be bought. So that comes from the great late Shirley Chisholm, who certainly could have probably, had more success politically, but she just refused to be purchased. And I have deep admiration and respect for that. In the kind of current day society, I have a lot of respect for the Robert F. Smiths of the world, the brother that just, we all now know him. I've been aware of Robert for a while now, but we all now know him because he became a national figure last spring, when he gave Morehouse graduates $40 million. He paid off the college graduation debt for all the Morehouse brothers. Robert F. Smith to me is really, really influential, because he's a Black man who went into an all-white space. People, we know a lot of, when we think of Black billionaires, who do we think about? We think of Oprah, we think of Michael Jordan, we think of Sean Carter, Jay-Z, we think of almost billionaire Sean Combs, my chairman over at Revolt. But low key,
sports, yeah,
it's really all entertainment and sports, exactly. And that's not shaming that. Get it how you live. Be clear. But Robert F. Smith is worth over $5 billion, and he made his money in private equity. Private equity is a space that hardly sees any Black folk. And I know that because now I live in I'm a pretty well-read, exposed, educated woman. I had never heard of private equity until I moved to New York City. And it's like, oh shit, it's a whole different bag to get. It's an entirely different game at play. So, Robert F. Smith, coming from Morehouse College himself with a background in chemistry, I believe. And then, he went to Harvard MBA program, landed at Morgan Stanley. So it's all looking good. And even in that comfort, decided I'm gonna go do my own thing and started his own private equity firm. I think you can count on one hand how many Black people had done that at that time, and bet big on a space and technology that not a lot of other people, even in PE, even in private equity, were doing. And now he's positioned so powerfully beyond just his wealth. It's what he's able to do because of that wealth that I personally admire. So that's a few of my folks.
That's amazing. Write them down, learn about them, everybody, if you don't know.
Yeah.
Very influential. And now another topic that we've been bringing up with some of our guests, especially during one of the most, if not the most important election years of our lives,
Absolutely.
is the importance of voting. Now,
You can say that.
Can you please talk to us about the importance of voting?
Yes.
I know it's yeah.
The short answer is yes. Okay, so if you go on my Instagram page, and anybody listening and watching this now, go on my Instagram page, you will see the second most recent post. I'm wearing a Carolina blue sweatshirt, again, much pride in my Tar Heels. And I'm talking about, it's a clip from State of the Culture that was a reaction to our chairman's, Sean Diddy Combs' call to action. That indeed for this election, maybe we should hold our vote. Maybe we should boycott this election. Okay, somebody corrected me. I guess Robert F. Smith went to Cornell and then Columbia Business School. Okay, my apologies. But I knew he had an Ivy League connection, and I really did think he had a Morehouse undergrad.
Right.
I do think that. I'm going to fact check that. I think he had a Morehouse undergrad. I think he might have had a Cornell master's and then a Harvard. But I'll get that because I do. The facts are important. Anyway, back to this voting thing. So Mr. Combs, Puff said, "Don't vote. We're not. The Black vote is not free, and we're not going to vote until we feel there's an adequate Black agenda. And if and when we don't see one, we're going to stay home. We're going to hold the Black vote." And some people agreed with him. My friend Charlemagne the God agrees with that point. And it got a lot of traction. So of course we talk about it on State of the Culture because that's what we do.
Yep.
And I really had a moment of internal conflict because here's the reality. That man signs my check, to be clear. I'm talking about Puff, right? Yep. At the same time, I already told you why I'm in this space is to do this work. So I have to show up authentically. And I thought that was an extremely irresponsible and dangerous take from Puff. Yeah. Like, I thought the consequences of enough people listening to that and enough people looking at Puff with his level of reach and influence, and let's be honest, quiet as kept, folks don't want to vote no way. And that's in general.
Facts.
That's just facts. So all we looking for is a reason to stay our asses at home, not be out there in those lines. Don't let it rain. Then we really ain't about to be out there. You know what I mean? So, and I say that jokingly, but also for real. You know, like, let us not forget when Obama was elected the first time. I want to say that it was raining in Florida or one of the big swing states, and people were so committed to being heard and getting that man in office that they stayed in line 5, 6, 8 hours, some of them in the rain. Hours. Mm-hmm. And that's the only way it's going to happen. So, yeah, so for Puff to go out here, even with the notion, even with the suggestion of holding a vote, let me tell you something. I hate to be the bearer of bad news. We are not in a political position to even afford to do that. Right. That's why I entitled my Instagram recap as Black People Don't Play Yourselves. Listen, I would love if we had enough political sway and enough political power to sit an election like this one out. We do not. We just don't. And don't mistake the fact that Black people, Black women in particular, show up and we do save elections. Save Doug Jones in Alabama when he ran for the U.S. Senate. Black people saved, I'm paraphrasing, but Charlemagne the God says it, Black people saved Joe Biden's political life in South Carolina. Yes, indeed we did. That is a true statement. But don't confuse having influence on an election with actual political power.
Right.
Let me tell you who has political power. Political power is held by people like, oh, the police unions. That's timely. People want to know. People want to know why legislation is not being changed fast enough. What people want to know why cops, when they're caught on camera murdering civilians, Black in this case mostly, but any civilian, why they're not immediately arrested, why it took 2 months for the officer involved in killing Ahmaud Arbery to even be arrested, because of police unions. Because police, and I'm not shaming the police union, actually. I'm very pragmatic on this shit. You know what? Anybody is going to protect their political interest. That's what they do. So all the police union is doing is protecting their interest. But in doing so, how do they do that? They raise enormous sums of money, and then they give that money to candidates. So when candidates are in their office, not because we showed up to vote. Now, voting's important. I'm going to get back to voting in a minute, but I want to make sure people understand the difference here. Voting gives you influence. It does not give you power. So you got to have influence before you can get to power. That's why the voting is non-negotiable. You got to do it. We got to do it. It's right now the only thing we have going for us. But then that next step in a political revolution looks like copying and pasting what every group of major political power does. And that is buying candidates. Let me be clear. That is what political power is. That is what the teachers unions do. People want to know why our kids are still at 8th grade reading levels, graduating from high school. People want to know why our schools are war zones. People want to know why education reform has never been taken seriously. Because on the other side of education reform, you have teachers unions that are saying, we like the shit just the way it is. And we're going to spend our money to protect this system. So teachers unions, Planned Parenthood. You notice how Planned Parenthood, and I'm an advocate for Planned Parenthood. For years when I was quitting those jobs that didn't soothe my soul, that is where I would get my yearly gynecological exams, when I would need to go to the gyno. So shout out to Planned Parenthood. But Planned Parenthood is never nervous or worried about getting their budget. Because they have political power, because Planned Parenthood gives millions and millions of dollars to congressional and Senate and executive level politicians every year. And so they always don't get the bag. Same thing with the NRA. You want to know why gun control never passes? That's why. So you get my point. Political entities that have power give money in large sums to candidates. And that is why they have political power. So no, we can talk about a Black agenda all day long. We want a Black agenda because we vote for you. We not gonna get no Black agenda based on no damn votes. We not gonna get that. We gonna get a Black agenda when we have a Black PAC or super PAC that gives millions of dollars to the candidates that we want to vote and create legislation in our interest. And I don't want to hear that we can't do that, because Black people actually have quite a bit of income that we dispose of. My Jewish friends that are in APAC, which is another hugely political power base, I would say only second or third to Planned Parenthood or the NRA. They, you know how we pay tithes? I don't know about your household, but growing up, Black people don't pay tithes. That's how the Jewish community looks at their APAC dues. They give that money religiously. So when we religiously give to our political interest, that's when we will have political control and power.
And that brings me to my next question. What do you think is more important, voting at the local levels, the levels that are close to you, or national, federal? And why does it seem as if Black people may not be as informed about what's happening at the local levels, and how important it is to know and be informed about what's happening right in your community, in your backyard?
That's powerful. So again, remember what I said early on? Everything you need to know about life is what? In the wire. Okay, so if you go back to season 4, they really get into this political bag of local politics.
Yeah.
You're seeing state legislatures, you're seeing city council, you're seeing the mayoral race, and you're seeing just how important it is. Because guess who is the boss of the police commissioner? The mayor.
Mayor.
That is a locally elected. See how all this shit fits? So I can't say which one is more important, because federal and local elections are both equally important in different ways. So when you talk about education, yeah, there's some federal education stuff going on, but in terms of the day-to-day of how your child is going to be instructed, that is local politics. That is state level and city level budgets that are at play. That's not federal budgeting that are running our schools on the ground. They contribute, but in terms of the curriculum, the budgets, the teacher salaries, the student to teacher ratios of the classroom, all that stuff is done at a city level and state level. So that's just one example. Same thing with the policing. You know, I'm working right now with the team on federal legislation to enhance the standard of deadly force. That's going to be huge. That is important. But don't mistake that as a replacement for the equally important deadly force statutes at the local and federal level. I mean, local and state level. So hope that helps, you know, but people need to understand the day-to-day workings of what's going on in your neighborhoods, your schools, your churches, your community centers, your civic engagement. All of that's local. All that's local. That's city council and that's state legislation. Right.
And how can people, so you're very solutions based. How can people give it?
That's the only reason I agreed to this interview, because I rocks with Black Solutions. You know,
let's go.
No, the content founder of Black Solutions has been a longtime follower of mine, and we engage in real dialogue about the content that I put out. And I'm really happy to be here and finally make this happen.
Thank you so much. And the wealth of knowledge is just so crazy. And I just have one more question before we start taking questions from the viewers. And that is, you know, how can we get active for our communities? And do you have any advice for how people can be a solution in their communities, especially during times right now, and especially during times where people are so confused and there's a lot of people trying to find their voice.
Right.
So they may be conflicted on, you know, how and what way to give, especially, you know, non-Black people.
Okay. So
and this is long-winded too. I know.
Right. Yeah. But it's real. Because especially in this moment, I think you're exactly right. I think you've got a lot of people, the conversations I've been having the last few days is about a lot of white people in this moment, right? Saying, oh my God, I didn't know, whatever. But anyways, in this moment, clearly I need to do something. I finally recognize that. So what do I do? But what's not really being talked about that needs to be talked about are all the Black people that are aware of what has been happening to us for 400 years, but still don't really know what to do about it, that are feeling helpless and defeated and heartbroken. So to get straight to the nitty gritty, what can Black people do that is solutions based in this moment? I think having a voice and using a voice, I'm gonna get to that. But before you really use your voice, make sure you are educated on the issue. So one of the things that social media has done very well is given everybody some kind of platform, right? That's great. But make sure before you go out here spewing an ideology or a call to action, this don't vote this, or I'm still not voting for Biden, or whatever it is. If that's your take, that is your fundamental right. Just make sure it's coming from a very well-informed place. Right. So I'm not telling people not to say their heart or their thinking, but do yourself a favor and do your community a favor and make sure you are honestly informed. Read your documents, people.
Read your documents.
Know what the hell you talking about before you just be out here spewing something, because a lot of y'all are gifted communicators And what you say, people will follow.
They'll listen.
So you want to be responsible in your communication. I can't emphasize that enough. Another thing people can do in this moment, like I said, I am not alone in the work I'm doing by a long shot. So when people are presenting legislative efforts, and again, a good brother of mine, is a dear friend, longtime friend, actually was my law school teaching assistant, Ted James. He's a state rep down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Ted is working on a comprehensive legislative package right now that's got about 5 or 6 important prongs. I mean, some of it, I think he's got a Clean Slate Act that allows for individuals with criminal records that are qualified to have them automatically stripped clean upon their release, so they can really move forward in their lives in an effective way. So you're going to see this, and when you see it, don't look away from it. Don't think, oh, it's too much to read, or it's too much to commit to understanding. Nah, your life depends on it. Your life depends on your understanding of that, and your life depends on your understanding and supporting of that. Sure. So that is what I would tell people to do. Look into the local because right now you're seeing a lot of visibility to our issues because sadly the tape of Brother Floyd's death, the Amy Cooper shit, it's really weird. We're trending internationally, right? You saw the protest in Paris, even in Dublin, in all these places across the world, Berlin. But don't let the trendiness of this moment have you thinking that this work was not already in process.
Right.
This work has been in process, and it will continue after the news cycle has abandoned it. And so that's what I would tell Black people to do, is stay committed to the work, stay committed to the legislative change, stay committed to supporting Black businesses. Black entrepreneurship and Black enterprise is as important as Black political power, because that's Black economic power. And none of these power structures exist in a vacuum. In order to fully exercise the political power in which I spoke about, what do we need? We need this, we need the bag. So we have to make sure that our Black economic power is on point. So some of those things, I think, just pay attention to and support the legislation by voting and informing. Make sure you are supporting Black businesses and starting your own, and making sure Black dollars are cycling through Black communities. Killer Mike speaks of this all the time, and he need to keep speaking on it till we get it, because half of us still ain't got it. And then the education part, never stop learning. I mean, I have a whole degree in this subject, and I just told you, I'm still reading, I'm still watching, I'm still.
Yep. It doesn't stop. Yep.
Yeah, it never stops. It never stops.
And just one last question, because I lied. One last question, because this one is very, 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 very important. A lot of young women, young Black women, look up to you. And what advice can you give young women entering their prospective careers?
Be excellent. Be excellent. Be excellent in a way, and I know this is, I'm only 36, but sometimes I feel like I'm 56. So sometimes I say old lady saying. So one of those is, you have to work twice as hard to get half as much. I subscribe to the first half of it, but not the second. Right. I'm going to work twice as hard to get all of it. I don't want no damn half as much. That's not good enough for me. I want it all.
Yes.
Okay? And so, to get it all, I know I have to show up in pure excellence. There is no margin for error in this country when you are a Black citizen. None. Zero. I don't care if you're a man, a woman, or anything in between. You cannot show up as less than excellent. So that is what I would tell young Black women and girls that look up to me and aspire to their own version of excellence. And indeed, that's what they should be doing. If you want the best out of life, you have to be the best in life, and don't let that scare you. Don't let that intimidate you. I say that at talks and panels and universities across our country, and sometimes it's met with like pushback. Like, well, I'm not really trying to be the best, Miss Eboni. I just kind of want to be good. Nah, F that. Stand in your opportunity to be the best. Like, if you're not going to be the best, my position is don't do it. Don't do it. Like, I'm not going to do something unless I'm committed to being the best. Like, when I'm dead and gone, you know what I want them to say about me? I want them to say, no one in the world did what she did better than her.
Right.
That's my threshold. And going back to Michael Jordan, that's what MJ said. You know, so
Yeah.
say what you want about him, and I got plenty to say. That part you cannot take away from him. He made sure that when the shit hit the fan, he would be the best. And that is why he is the legacy that he is. Yeah. And so that would be my simple advice. Be the best. Know the most. Every room I go into, a question I get often is, Eboni, why are you so confident? And I am extremely confident. But confidence is not a random, arbitrary thing that some people have and some people don't. At least I don't believe in that.
Right.
I believe confidence comes from competence. When you are competent, truly competent in what it is that you do, that confidence cannot be helped, right? So yeah, I show up with a lot of vibrato, a lot of confidence. Most people love it. Some don't. I don't care, right? The reason I'm that way is because I know when I walk into a space, when I walk on set, when I walk into a talk or a keynote, whatever it is, a panel, I'm going to know at least as much, probably most times more,
yes,
than everybody else at the table. And that's how people always ask me, how did you survive Fox News? That's how. Because I don't give a damn whose show I was on or what co-host. I knew more than every single person in the room.
Yep.
And I probably looked better than them too. So that helped. So,
yes,
low key, you know.
High-key.
So when you add those two together, you know, I'm sitting here, my swag on fire. You know, my intelligence is on 10. What you gonna tell me?
Amen. Nothing.
What you, not a damn. So that's that. And people are laughing, and I'm being a little humorous here. Forgive me, but I really do mean that. I really do mean that.
That's real. That's so real. Now, IG's gonna shut us off in a minute, but if you're down, are you willing to answer some of the questions?
Absolutely. Yeah. Just you can pick up. Yeah, y'all. Thank y'all so much for the lovely, sweet compliments. I love y'all back. But we're gonna take at least one question. Somebody get in here and give us a really good question.
Yeah, let's get a question. What we got? I saw one. Somebody asked, why do entertainers and ball players get paid more than teachers and doctors and whatnot? That was interesting. Let me see if I can find that one.
Yeah.
Why do entertainers and athletes get paid way more than teachers and police officers and nurses and doctors? Sounds like a simple question, but that's also real.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I'm sitting here kind of dumbfounded by it because it's a sad question. The truth is, and this is not a feel-good answer, but I'm just going to answer it honestly, that entertainers and sports figures, which are also entertainers, are paid exorbitant amounts of money because the work they do provides enormous profits. So NFL players are making millions of dollars per game. Some of them actually don't, but whatever. They're all making some level of a lot of money because how much does it cost to go to an NFL game? How much does it cost to park at an NFL game? How much does it cost to buy a beer at an NFL game? But no, I'll finish it up and let us go. But that's why. That's the short answer, is because the nature of the work they do. It's not more important work. It's not harder work. None of those things are true. It's simply more profitable work. There is not a lot of profit in being a classroom teacher. There's not a lot of profit in being a nurse, sadly. There's actually not even as much profit in being a doctor as it used to be. So that is why that is the case versus, the budgets for movies, the budgets for an NFL franchise, the budgets for an NBA franchise, the budgets for these television shows. They make a lot of money because what are those vehicles for? They're advertising opportunities. So you've got, what's around here? You've got Tide laundry detergent willing to spend, $10 million for a 30-minute spot on you know, a daytime talk show, that's why the host on The View or The Real or whatever are making a couple $1 million a year. That's why. Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, there you have it. I don't want to hold you anymore. I know you're busy in the world and whatnot.
Indeed. This was
I really,
fantastic, though. I really
want to
appreciate
thank
you.
I appreciate you. I appreciate you. I appreciate everything you're doing for our community, all the knowledge that you're getting out there, and how fearless you are and courageous, and all the work that you're doing on the front lines.
That's
Hey,
where the
let's go.
fearlessness comes from. That's it.
Right. That's right.
Love you. Love Black Solutions. Love
We
everybody
love you.
that joined us. Hope you save this and post it for those that couldn't join us live. And we here. Thank you, bro. Take care of yourself.
Love you too. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.